everybody, and welcome back to the Dice Tower. My name is Zee Garcia.
And I'm Camilla.
Today we're taking a look at Mesos, or Mesos, or one of those two words.
I say Mesos in my head.
I say Mesos.
Do you?
Like Mesopotamia, Mesozoic.
Oh, yeah. You're usually right when it comes to pronunciation.
I don't know. So Mesos here is a prehistory themed game in which you're going to be gathering your tribe, different people, gatherers and hunters and shaman and, that sort of thing. And then trying to feed those people, trying to deal with specific events that come up, and thrive with the passage of time. That sounds like a very epic description. Mm-hmm. It's actually a very simple, straightforward little card game with not that many moving parts. Let's go ahead and take a look at it now so I don't have to explain it to you, and we'll come on back. We'll tell you what we think of it. The game's going to be played over 3 eras depicted on the back of the deck here, and once we run the whole deck out, we are going to see who the winner is. You're going to make and possibly lose some points throughout the game. You'll be using the tokens to mark that, and then at the end of the game, as shown on the player aid here, you'll be gaining victory points based on a few different things as well. There's some events that are going to trigger, and they are denoted here. I'll go over them in just a little bit. But basically, there's 2 kinds of cards. There are building cards, these 2 over here, and more will come into play with the second stage and then the third. And then the people cards, the tribe cards here. And those you're going to be acquiring and collecting sets of them for various benefits. Before I drill down and show you what the different cards do, let me show you the general flow of the game, all right? We've got a game here set up for 4 people, and as I said, these are victory points, and this is food right here in 1s and 5s. So the flow goes like this. Starting from whoever's at the top of this tile here, you are going to move. That player is going to choose where they want to go, and they will select that location. The next player will select the location. The next player will select a location, and then the final one can choose where they want to go. Let's say they're going to go here. Now that that's done, starting from whoever's closest to the front, they're going to trigger the abilities of what they selected, and then they're going to come back to this tile as close to the top as possible, gaining food or possibly losing food here at the bottom. If they can't lose food, they'll have to lose some victory points. And so red would be the first player here. This denotes they're going to be allowed to take 1 card from the top. And they can claim any one of the people or one of the buildings as long as they pay for that building as a cost in food. So perhaps they will take this card. They take the card, they put it in front of themselves, then they come back to this tile and gain 2 food there. They'll take those 2 and add it to their supply. Next player goes. In this case, yellow can take 1 from up top and 1 from down below. They'll do that. They come back and gain 1 food. The next player takes 2 from the top. Same thing. The last player takes 3 cards. Anytime you can take a person up top, you can also, like I said, take a building. And so a few more things are going to be gone. I'll just grab this and this. 2 from the top are gone, and then over here 1 from the bottom and 2 more from the top are gone. There we go. And everybody would have been back at this point, taking their respective spots. Now, we're going to check if there are any events here at the bottom. There are not, but if there was one, and it looks like that, these are the 4 different ones, then it would trigger, and I'll come back to that. Let's say there aren't. After that, these are all going to go away. Anything still at the top is going to move to the bottom. So these are going to come down here. And then we replenish the top with new cards. The buildings do not come down. They stay at the top. They're always only accessible at the top with one of the green arrows and never down. So now that you understand the general flow of the game, the way in which you claim these cards, let's talk about what the cards do, okay? I'm going to be grabbing a few here and explaining what it is they do. We're going to start right here with this one. This is an inventor. The inventor is going to show you a symbol below their main inventor symbol there. And you are going to be collecting these because at the end of the game, you're going to get victory points based on how many inventors you have multiplied by the symbols that you have. And that is represented right here. So it would be the inventors. You're going to get number of different symbols times inventors. That's how many points you get. So let's say I've got all 3 of these cards in front of me at the end. That's 1, 2, 3 different symbols times 3 cards, 9 points. So that's the inventors. The gatherers. Let me find a gatherer. Here we are. The gatherer is going to reduce what you need to pay to feed your people by 3 food. And so the way this works is it's going to be triggered when you have the sustenance event. And the sustenance event is right here. When this event is at the top, you see it coming. It moves to the bottom. At the end of that turn, then it's going to trigger, and you have to pay 1 food or 1 victory point for everybody in your tribe. Now, this is the one for the first age, but there's a version of this in the second era and one in the third era, and they start to get a little bit harder and more difficult later on. This is going to be true for all of the events, okay? The penalties go up, as well as the rewards. So there you go. Those are gatherers. We've got the shamans. The shamans here come with a varying amount of stars right here, 1 or 2 or 3. You are going to be dealing with that when you have this shamanic ritual that happens. Whoever has the most stars is going to get 5 points. Whoever has the least is going to lose 3 points. And again, these values go up in later stages. So those are shamans. You've also got builders. Let me look for a builder here in front of me. There's a builder there. The builder is going to give you a discount on building buildings. And so this costs 5 food, gives you 2 points, it gives you some ability. Well, this builder, if you have them, you can pay less food for those, okay? They also have a number of victory points. This one happens to be nothing, but they'll give you some victory points. Sometimes the discount goes down a bit, so maybe only reducing the cost by 1 food, but it might be worth, say, 2 victory points. So those are builders. We've got artists. These are the artists. Let me move some of these. The artist here is going to have to do with the cave paintings event. And so the cave paintings event, which I've got right here, is going to be for if you have none whatsoever, no artists, you're going to lose 2 victory points. But if you have 1 or more, then you get 1 point per. And again, these values go up. The penalty will be bigger. The reward will be bigger later on in the game. This happens, all of these events happen 3 times in the game. And then the last one is going to be the hunter. The hunter looks like this, and they come in 2 different types. Let me find another one here. Some of the hunters are going to show nothing here below their symbol, and some are going to show food beneath the symbol. When you take a hunter that does not have food, nothing happens. But when you take one that has the food, you immediately get 1 food per hunter you have, with or without that symbol. So when I take this one, nothing. When I take this one, 2 food. And then there's also an event that has to do with the hunters. This one's only positive. There's no penalty here. You're going to get 1 food and 1 victory point per hunter. So when that triggers, you'll do that. And that is the general idea. You'll be going through the deck. Again, the second stage will have more characters. It'll have cards that trigger and have bigger rewards and penalties. And then eventually, you'll get to the bottom of the third deck. The bottom of the third is seeded with these 2 blue cards because we have to make sure that these 2 are the last 2 things. That is feeding your people and this ritual. Those are the last 2 things that happen. And then once that's done, you are going to score the final victory points here. Buildings, you're going to get from the builders, you're going to get victory points. You're going to get victory points here. Your artists, you get 10 victory points for every 2 you have. And then any building cards down here, you are going to get victory points for those as listed on there. I'm not going over the building abilities, but be aware there are the stage 2 and the stage 3 buildings, and you don't even see them all in any game, so there will be a few different things to consider there. So there you go. That should give you an idea of how the game flows. Let's go ahead and go back up top. So I am a big fan of prehistory themes. I love, in this game you are cave painting, or you are trying to survive with the rest of your tribe. You're inventing fire, something like that. I love those themes. And for me in this one, that theme works really well. I like what's going on in this.
I agree. And I think it's very bringing kind of the art into it as well. I think it's well represented as well. I love that it all has this kind of cave drawing look and feel to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm a fan of the theme already, and I think it's very well represented here. And also translates to the mechanisms a little bit without feeling, like you said, like a big epic game.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of stays within the scope of being a pretty short card game, you know, and
Yeah.
I management game where you're trying to manage, you know, and grow your tribe and your kind of set collection.
Yeah, right. The set collection in it, this idea of you are collecting various characters and they're good towards different things. I love that in a game because any one thing you choose to take also means there's something you're not taking.
Right.
And I really like that. Oh, I want the shaman. The shaman's going to give me a bunch of points if I have the most shaman when that event comes up. Yeah, but that for taking that, because I took that, I also then left a gatherer. That means I might not be able to feed my people later. Or I didn't take a builder, and now I don't get that discount. I love that sort of deciding which thing you go with. They all kind of feel good, so there's not you're never really at a moment where you go, well, this sucks and is worthless, but I'll take it because it's the only thing. It's always something.
Right. I think that's the kind of unique thing about this game is you never feel like you have that wasted turn. All the cards out there are good. So it's not like you're going to get stuck with a card necessarily. But where the interesting part comes in to play is how many cards you get to take and when in the turn order.
Right.
You know, when you're going out and placing your actual worker to decide which level of cards you're taking, like which row you're taking from and how many you get. And so that's kind of the interesting push and pull decision that you have to make is how many and from what row.
Right.
Not, I have to have that card. You know, because
sometimes you do, but then you go early, right? If you can. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really good balance. And that's something else that, I guess, softens the blow of those cards that you have to have if you're really torn between two. If it does stay around, then it's going to age a little bit, you know, so it's like a two-step aging out process, which, again, factors into that. Do you think it's going to stay around one more time, and can you wait and get that one next round? Yeah. So it just kind of leads to some interesting decisions.
Yeah, the game has a little bit of that King Domino feel of, you know, you go earlier and you get fewer things, but you got to go earlier, or do you go later, you'll get more stuff. You also get to pick later, so some of the things, you know, many things will be gone by then. I like that feeling. I also like the buildings in here. It's like another little level on top where the buildings are always at the top. They never sort of age down. You will have to spend food for them, certainly a precious resource in the game because it is pretty tight, this game. But then you have a special ability, and that's very different and unique. You might go through a whole game and never really buy one. It's possible, and you might even do well. But that's the thing that sort of separates the players at the table, is what special condition or ability you have, and I really like the way they factor into the game.
I think that's really interesting and something that easily could have been cut out, and I'm glad they didn't. You know, it's that little extra, it almost feels like a module that I'm so glad is not a module. It's just included in the base game. The other thing I feel that same way about is the events. I feel like those could have been in a module, and I'm so glad they're not, because I think that's what separates the players. You see them coming, because they don't trigger until they leave the second row. So you have two rounds to adapt your strategy, and I think that is, thematically, that's really cool, because maybe they see a bad harvest coming up, or everyone's getting hungry, we're going to have to feed, you know, whatever event it is that's going to trigger, it's like they see it coming, but you don't have much time to prepare either. And I really think that that's adds a neat kind of twist and tactical element to the game, which could be nothing but strategy long term. You know, how do you get the most points at the end? No, it brings that little bit of tactics into it where you have to be flexible because you don't know are you going to feed your people at the beginning of the round or the end. It's when that card comes up.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have just a very short moment to prepare for it. So those are the two things that really stuck out to me that could have been modules, and so great to see them fit so smoothly into this base game without that much more complexity.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as the buildings. They certainly feel like it could have been a module. I disagree as far as the events. They're so tightly woven with the characters that you can't really remove them. Like the shamans wouldn't do anything without the shamanic, you know, event. And like that's it. That's what they do. Is they if you have the most, you get points. Like you can't really remove that. You wouldn't feed people because it's tied to an event. I agree with the buildings do feel like a side activity, and I could even see this game, if it does well, getting an expansion where you just get more buildings, and you can easily shuffle in and put out new buildings. You don't see them all at every game anyway, so... But there is it's almost a pleasant sort of flow to the game where you draft some things. Oh, the event came up, okay, so next round we'll deal with that. Then that moves down. The end of that round you deal with it. There's sort of the passage of time in the game and the events you're triggering are... The game's not relaxing, but it feels good to see that progression in the game. It's not that it's like, it's a relaxing, like, cozy game. It doesn't feel like that. It's too tight. You know, there's negative points. You could probably go into negative. You might not be able to feed your people. You know, it's too much on a razor's edge, which I enjoy. I like the way it's balanced, but I enjoy the game flow.
And I think that's, so talking about the event cards, like, did they feel like a module? I think had they not been there, you still would have done those scoring, but then be like end game scoring or something like that. So end game triggers. They're still having that mechanism in there, but just not the randomness. That's what takes it out of that cozy category without adding complexity to it. It brings a little bit more tension,
right?
Which I think is good in a game like this.
Now, a couple of things I'll say that are negatives for me. I think the game can sometimes be a little too punishing. If somebody's really not able to get what they're going for and you end up with the wrong characters at the wrong time, you start going negative. Now next comes the feeding and you don't have the people that give you a break on food, and there you're going more negative. It can happen that you start really feeling like, all right, well, everybody else is thriving and I'm dying.
Right. That can kind of snowball that. I think that I've seen it happen, but I feel like it's next time they overcome that. Like, oh, okay, I have to feed my people.
Sure.
I have to account for that. But the flip side of that, if they are getting those negative points, they're probably racking up a ton of scoring in the set collection, the items, I can't remember what they're called, the items, or in the hunters, when those trigger. So I haven't found it necessarily to be imbalanced, but it can not feel good during the play.
Yeah, I think
if you're the one
that's
not going into it. Doesn't feel good, you're probably still going to have a tight score, because in those games I still have seen very close scores.
They're very close scores.
It's just not going to feel good, And
then the other thing for me is I like the game much more with more people. I think it scales up much better than it scales down, and I feel it's because of that King Domino turn sequence thing. When it's 2 or 3 players, it just doesn't feel as interesting. Do I take 4th or 5th? You're first or second, and by the time you're first, you take 1. I'm like, well, my choice is always 1 of 2, or 1 of 3 at best with fewer players. If I'm first in a 5-player game, that's really interesting. I have a lot of choices. It becomes a push your luck.
Okay, interesting.
Do I go first? I get only a thing. I might be able to go third and still get the card I want if whoever goes here and here doesn't take it. It feels like gambling with myself, sort of. You know what I mean?
I do, but I think I disagree. I don't mind it at the lower player counts, and maybe I do prefer it. I feel more tension because it's first or second, because that also changes the cards that are available out there. So it feels like in a 5-player game, there's not as much difference between first and third. In a 1- and 2-player game, there can be a huge difference between first and second, it feels like, because of the cards out there. So if you're only taking 1, that's a big deal. And so for me, I think it scales actually really well with combination of the actual availability out there. I think there's a lot of tension behind it.
Okay. Yeah, I like it with more. You get to see more buildings and stuff too, so I like it that way better. Just a little more, I don't know, variability maybe. I enjoy that feeling.
I haven't found that, yeah.
All right, anything else you want to mention?
I don't think so, no.
All right, let's launch into some final thoughts on Mesos.
Okay, my final thoughts, I was drawn in by the theme here, but card games, really not something I tend to gravitate towards, but I was very pleasantly rewarded by all my experiences with this game. So I'm going to come in at an 8 on it. Wow. I agree. I feel like I have learned through multiple plays of this, I have to take care of my people. I don't like that feeling of being the one that's behind. That's my play strategy. I'm always going to have it, but I love that it's in there to balance it where, fine, then just go into the gatherers. So then you really don't have to. You're not having to spend 15 food. You're having to spend 5 food because you have a couple gatherers.
Right.
You know, and so I like that mechanism is in there to kind of ease up that play for my play style as well. So yeah, I really enjoy my plays of this. I find it tense at 2 players. It gets a little too, and where we were kind of disagreeing, a little too long for the type of game, like where I want this to fit in my collection, in my weeknight, if you will, at a higher player count for me. It overstays its welcome. But at 2, 3 players, I very much enjoy this game, and you just feel successful. There's never a wasted turn, and the tension is in that turn order, which is one of my favorite mechanisms. So yeah, so for me, it is an 8.
I'm giving it an 8 also, actually. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying here. I'd really like the set collection in this. It feels good to start building up your tableau in front of you. To look down and realize, ooh, when I take that hunter, that one has the meat symbol, so I'll immediately get 4 food. The little rewards, the game rewards you a lot. Ooh, I should try to buy that building. Do I want to spend that much food on that building? I think it'll be worth it. I think I can climb back out of that hole. Okay, I'm going to do that and buy that building. Now I have a unique ability. The whole thing has a real nice forward momentum. I like teaching it. It's one of those games I could see becoming a sort of convention comfort food for me.
Yeah.
Because it's a fun one to teach. It is simpler than it looks. Even spread out on the table, if you walk by a table playing this, I think you'll glance and go, there's a lot happening. There's less happening than it looks.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing when this is what I'm in the mood for. So yeah, for me, I'm giving this one an 8 as well. I really enjoy it. I like just about everything in it, except for, again, it can be a little bit mean. It feels a little punishing. And the scalability, I wish felt at all player counts the way it feels to me with more. That's all. So there you go, everybody. That is going to be Mesos getting a seal of approval from us here at the Dice Tower. And that is gonna do it. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching this one. My name is Zee Garcia.
I'm Camilla.
And this is Mesos. Go paint some caves.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video from the Dice Tower. Hey, you want to learn more about us, communicate with us? We have a Facebook group, we have a Discord channel, lots of different ways to get involved with the Dice Tower. You can find that in our Linktree link below. So just click that, it will take you, and you can communicate with us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups. There's lots of cool things that you can find and become part of the Dice Tower. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.